Lights out wasn't silence. It was routine. Doors clicked. Pages stopped turning. A hallway shoe squeaked twice, then nothing. On the third floor of a dormitory built to contain boys and late homework, a single room stayed awake on paper, only a desk lamp unplugged, a window latch imperfect by design, the kind of flaw you notice only when it's too late. Roll call would come at dawn. For now, the building belonged to habit. A night monitor did his circuit: staircase, hall, washroom, back. His clipboard showed nothing unusual. The outer doors were latched, the fire escape didn't alarm when moved. It never had. If you know that, you've either lived here or studied it. At 10:42 p.m., a roommate on the adjacent wall heard a soft knock somewhere down the corridor, not on his door, not loud enough to draw him out. He would remember that knock later, when remembering hurt. Around midnight, someone moved along the hall with intent, steps that didn't wander, steps that knew the geometry. The room chosen had one bed occupied, one empty, and a shade that never fully closed. The hinge side, the door gave, the night refused to bear witness. What happened next left almost no sound. No drawers dumped. No posters torn down. Just a life stopped and a room that tried not to tell a story. Somewhere, a window was opened and left that way. By morning, people would argue about who first noticed it and why it mattered. Morning prayers require order. When one boy didn't show, order broke. A prefect went upstairs, calling the name once, then twice. He tried the handle. It yielded. The first thing he saw was the floor, the second, the bed frame, the third, the impossible. He backed out so hard his shoulder struck the corridor wall. He told no one what he'd seen, only sent a runner to the office and walked, not ran, to the front desk, call 911. Now. Seal the floor. Two staffers stretched yellow tape from their own supply, not police issue, just do not enter, from a maintenance closet. It wouldn't hold, but it created a line people were ashamed to cross. Within minutes, the building's noise turned to whispers. Students stood in socks, clutched notebooks, stared at the stairwell as if the banister could explain. First responders arrived at 6:41 a.m. No signs of forced entry. No theft. No weapon. The bedclothes were slightly askew, but not the mess of a struggle. It looked, one officer said later, like someone did homework and decided to end a life instead. The prefect kept thinking about the door, it wasn't locked. Was it usually? Sometimes. And the window, yes, the window had been opened. By whom? He hadn't touched it. The draft in the room didn't feel like fear. It felt like a choice. Detective Keller arrived with a legal pad and a pencil sharpened to an argument. He started with a map, third floor rectangle, stairwell here, washroom here, fire escape there. He wrote keys in the margin and underlined it twice. Who had them? Administrators. Night monitor. 2 senior students for emergencies only. He bent near the windowsill. Exterior scuffing matched frequent use. From the fire escape, you could enter the corridor through the end door if you had the right push, but that door creaked like an admission. No one recalled a creak. So, through the room? If you knew which room had a single sleeper, you might choose it. If you didn't, you'd risk eyes. The killer didn't risk. That meant knowledge. Evidence text dusted. Keller watched. Look for the absence, he said. No footprints, no cast-off, no trail that wanted to be found. A precise act with no panic afterward. The bed frame had a light smear of something, not blood, maybe oil. The desk held pens aligned by a tidy mind. And then, a circle of wax near the corner, almost missed. Candle? Keller asked. No one on scene had lit one. Who did, and when? By 9 a.m., the list of interviews was longer than the hallway. Start with routine, Keller said. Routine is where opportunity lives. He didn't say ritual. He didn't have to. The draft from the open window finished the sentence for him. Interviews began in a small office that smelled of whiteboard marker and burnt coffee. The night monitor said he walked rounds on the hour, 11, 12, 1. He saw no one. At 12:15, a senior student swore he heard 2 sets of footsteps in quick succession, like a person guiding someone else. Another boy, 3 doors down, reported a soft tap on his door around midnight. He didn't answer after lights out. Tapping meant pranks. A staff member admitted he'd checked windows earlier because of the cold. "Did you reopen any?" Keller asked. No, the answer came too fast. Keller noted the speed, not the content. Who knew he was alone last night? Silence. Then a boy said the roommate had gone home sick. Everyone on the floor knew. That wasn't luck. When the talk turned to the candle, stories shifted. One boy heard a rumor: someone had placed a memorial candle on the desk when the room was sealed. Another insisted it was there before police arrived. A staffer said any candle would only be placed with permission. By who? Keller asked. A rabbi, the man said carefully. It wasn't an answer. It was a shield. Keller wrote one word on his pad: custom. You don't ignore a candle in a murder room. You name it: memorial, ritual, message, and test each until one refuses to break. The circle of wax was too small to shout, big enough to whisper. If someone placed a candle after the fact, that act belonged to grief. If someone placed it before police control, that act belonged to the killer, or someone who wanted the killer to look like a believer. Keller requested a timeline precise to the minute: who entered first, who stayed at the door, when the room was sealed, who crossed the tape, under what authority. A 4-minute gap appeared between discovery and full seal. A staff member had stepped inside to make sure no one else was in there. Why alone? There was no time. Keller marked the gap. Gaps are doors. The window had been opened and left that way. No one on scene claimed responsibility. Some traditions speak of opening a window for the soul. Keller wasn't interested in theology, only intention. If the killer knew that custom, he either belonged here or studied it intimately. No weapon. No theft. No forced entry. A window left open by design. A room chosen for solitude. A candle that either honored or misled. The building held all the vocabulary of the crime. Someone inside still held the grammar. Maintenance logs are a mirror no one cleans. The janitor, Morales, kept them in a drawer, dated but not honest. Every door had a tag, every tag had a key. One key didn't match any tag: no number, no record, no reason to exist. Dalton, assistant head of maintenance, said he'd never seen it. Keller watched his eyes slide away. Someone used it last night, Keller said. It opens the 3rd floor service door. Dalton shrugged. Maybe a copy. Keller placed a plastic bag on the desk. Inside, the unmarked key. Maybe not. The janitor's hands shook. That key's not mine. It's everybody's, Keller said. Back at the dorm, Keller noted that the 3rd floor service door didn't latch without a lift of the handle. Quiet if you knew how. He tried it. The sound barely rose above breathing. Inside the office, he penciled a note: key circulated off book. Dalton lingered by the window, pretending to organize folders. Keller watched reflection over reflection. One of them was lying. He wasn't sure which. The chapel stood across the courtyard, small, stone, indifferent. Keller met Rabbi Levin there. I was told you approved a candle, Keller began. Levin's expression didn't change. We light candles for the departed. Before or after confirmation of death. The rabbi closed his book. Faith doesn't require clearance. Keller set the photo on the desk: wax ring, charred edge, candle stub. This candle? Levin nodded slowly. Yes. From our stock. How many are missing? 2. Keller wrote the number. Do you keep record of who takes them? No, Levin said. We trust our students. Keller looked toward a shelf of identical candles. Trust is convenient until someone dies. When he left, Levin stood motionless by the window, blinds cutting lines across his face. Keller thought of Faith as a hallway, every door locked except one, and that one always leads back to silence. Basement archives smell like old air trying to stay useful. Keller followed Morales down concrete stairs. The light flickered the way secrets breathed briefly. Cardboard boxes labeled incidents leaned against the wall. Morales pointed. "No one touches these." Keller pulled a folder dated 1983. Inside, a handwritten report, student on roof, fall ruled accidental. Another note, and signed, same time of year. He held up a faded photograph, group of boys outside the same dorm, a man in a long coat beside Dalton, 20 years younger. Morales whispered, "I told him to burn that box." Keller turned the photo over, blank back, as if names refused to exist. At the edge of the frame, a single candle sat on a windowsill. Same brand. Same ritual. Some ghosts don't haunt, they schedule. Evidence lab, mid-morning. A second candle, found in Dalton's desk. Wax identical. Wick unburned. Dalton stared as Keller laid it on the table. "For memorial use," Dalton muttered. Keller said, "or rehearsal." Forensic tests matched the wax to that in the victim's room. "Who brought them?" Keller asked. Dalton rubbed his forehead. "We get donations." "From?" "An old member, a Mr. Stein." Keller froze. "First name?" Dalton shook his head. "R, just R." Keller opened the visitor log, R. Stein, November 8, signed in at 9:06 p.m. No exit recorded. Dalton whispered, "He visits every year." Keller leaned in. "And every year, someone dies." Dalton looked down at the candle, then blew on it instinctively as if extinguishing evidence could unmake the pattern. The reception clerk's memory fractured under fluorescent light. He wore a dark coat. Hat low. Said he was here for inspection. ID? Keller asked. He had one. Looked real. The signature in the log, Art Stein, matched no employee file. Security camera footage was grainy, timestamp flickering. A tall figure entered at 9:06 p.m., vanished toward the stairwell. At 2:13 a.m., Dalton returned alone. Keller stared at the frozen frame, Dalton's reflection on glass, and behind it, a faint second outline, static blurred, neither shape nor shadow. The text said, "That's interference." Keller replied, "So's half this town." He labeled the disk entry, "Exit unknown." Proof doesn't always explain. Sometimes it just waits for belief. Records live longer than memory. Keller opened decades of ledgers in the administrative office. Same handwriting, different ink, repeating every November, Art Stein, inspection. The secretary said softly, he was generous. Donations, repairs. Still alive? Keller asked. She hesitated. He died, years ago. Then who signs for him now? No answer. Just the sound of a clock not keeping perfect time. Keller circled each entry. Patterns like these aren't coincidences, they're habits with paperwork. He closed the book and stared through the blinds. Outside, students laughed, unaware they were rehearsing history. When institutions can't tell ghosts from guests, truth checks in under a fake name. A half-burned photograph surfaced in evidence. Keller studied the edges, smoke curled like memory trying to breathe. The picture showed students at an old ceremony. Beside Dalton stood the man in the dark coat. He took the photo to Harris, the oldest student witness. You've seen him? Harris nodded. He visits every year. Always stands near the door. Dalton refused further interviews. Keller dropped the photo on the table between them. He's not real, is he? Dalton stared at the smoke-stained image. He was. Once. Name? Dalton whispered, R. Stein. Keller leaned back. Then he never left this building. Truth, Keller thought, wasn't missing, it was archived under someone else's name. Keller's office became a map of repetition, photos, names, dates pinned like ritual. Every November, one death. Different year, same dorm. The pattern ended only when someone confessed, or died, or both. He met Rabbi Levin again. "You knew this wasn't the first," Keller said. Levin looked at the candles on his shelf. "We chose silence over scandal." "Silence doesn't heal," Keller said. "It harvests." Levin's hands trembled. "What do you expect me to do?" "Remember," Keller said. He left the office knowing remembrance was the one prayer no one said aloud. Outside, wind scraped dead leaves along the courtyard stones, each sound a name withheld. The basement air tasted of rust and confession. Keller found a door behind storage crates, a hidden room. Inside, a single chair, a burned candle stub, a student ID half buried in dust. The date carved on the wall, November 8th. He radioed for the forensics team but stayed alone a moment longer. The wax circle matched the one upstairs. The ID belonged to the victim. Someone had brought him here first. He pressed a finger into the carving, the groove cold, deliberate. When the others arrived, the air had changed. Keller left the basement with one certainty: this place didn't need witnesses, it had walls that remembered better than people did. Interrogation rooms always smell like doubt. Keller sat across from Dalton, tape recorder running, one lamp hanging low. Dalton's hands trembled. "You don't understand. I was told to cooperate." "By who?" Dalton shook his head. "He said it was tradition." Keller slid the photo across the table. "This man?" Dalton's eyes filled. "You think he's a ghost?" "He's not. He's permission." Silence folded in on itself. Finally Dalton whispered, "I gave him the key." Keller didn't move. He wrote one sentence: "Confession access granted." Dalton looked down. "You won't stop him." Keller stood. "I already did. You just didn't notice." The tape played like a heartbeat. Keller replayed the footage from the lobby. 9:06 p.m., the man enters. 2:13 a.m., Dalton returns alone. Frame by frame, Keller froze the reflection, two shapes overlapping for half a second. Technician said, "Camera error." Keller saw intention, not error, guilt recorded in pixels. He printed the frame and pinned it to his board. Ghost or man, the shadow existed. Proof doesn't always solve. Sometimes it just refuses to vanish. Keller labeled it interference, filed it, and turned off the monitor. In the glow of its afterimage, he saw the shape again, behind his own reflection. The boardroom smelled of wood polish and denial. 5 men, 1 woman. Keller placed the files before them. "You authorized access," he said. "Every November, same name, same visitor." The chairman straightened. "Detective, we preserve tradition. You preserved a pattern." A lawyer said, "You have no suspect." "I have a schedule," Keller replied. He spread the photos. "Each death under your watch." Silence settled like dust, no one dared breathe. Finally someone whispered, "Do you know what this would do to us?" Keller gathered the folders. "You already did it to yourselves." He left them with their silence, the only punishment institutions truly understand. 2 weeks later, an envelope arrived. No return address. Inside, a letter in Dalton's handwriting. "Detective, some truths are too heavy. I've taken mine elsewhere." A small key fell out. Keller drove to the chapel, unlocked the panel behind the altar, and found the safe. Inside, donation records, photos, and one sealed envelope labeled 1985, Stein. He didn't open it. Sometimes opening is the last act of faith left to destroy. He locked the safe again, sealed the letter, and sat alone until the bells started their hourly denial of time. The building was still. The story, far from it. The memorial was scheduled for Sunday. Candles lined the hallway, each flame a small confession. Rabbi Levin read from Psalms. Keller stood in the back, hands in pockets, watching wax melt like minutes he couldn't keep. A boy placed the final candle. For a heartbeat, the hallway looked clean again. Then Keller saw the open window. Same corner. Same hinge. He walked over, closed it gently. The latch clicked, soft, final. Somebody photographed the moment. Next morning, the paper read, "School seeks healing after tragedy." But Keller knew healing wasn't the opposite of guilt. It was just quieter. Long Island sleeps like it forgives. Buildings don't. They keep their sounds, footsteps, prayers, lies, between drywall and memory. The dorm reopened. New paint. New faces. Same blueprint. Keller still visits sometimes. Walks the hall. He stops at the same room, touches the same mark on the desk. The wax stain never left. He turns off the light and listens. Outside, trees bend toward the windows, moving just enough to sound like breathing. Some murders are solved. Others are absorbed into walls, into silence, into faith that never really believed in truth to begin with. Fade to black. Inspired by true events.